Hi everyone, Elisa with Jots Designs. In this video, I'll be checking out some polymer clay from Hippie Crafter. It's a set of 48 colors in 1 ounce blocks. The instructions are on the side of the box and are easy to understand. Inside the box, you will find a card that shows other products carried by Hippie Crafter and also a set of 5 tools to use with the clay. These are great for creating textures, sculpting, and of course many other uses. As I mentioned, the colors come in 1 ounce blocks. I'm just going to dump them all out here and attempt to sort by colors so that you can see what comes in the box. And don't forget, you can always make your own colors from these too. I of course wanted to make something, and when I shot this video it was early autumn, so I chose colors to suit the season. I cut the instructions off the box so that I can keep them handy for when I use this clay. I have some scrap clay here that I will be using for a backing, and I will be using the conga line texture sheet from Helen Breil. I cut off equal parts of each color and then chopped them up into little bits, mixed them together and pressed them all together into a snake, and then rolled it a little bit to get some of the air out. Then I basically fold it in on itself and twist, roll it out and repeat. This marbles the clay. Once I was happy with where it was, I rolled it out flat with my acrylic roller, and I folded it over once to keep it more squarish. Because it's a soft clay and I didn't leach any of the oils off, it was sticking to my surface quite a bit. So I needed to clean it off, and I used 91% isopropyl alcohol to do that. I'll clean my roller and tissue blades with it as well. Now I need to prep the texture sheet with a release agent. Often I will use water, but I knew I wouldn't be baking right after cutting instead of adding powders or pastels or something to the clay, so I just used cornstarch instead. I used a soft makeup brush to spread the cornstarch around, making sure it wasn't clumped anywhere and that everything was covered. Then I placed the clay down on parts of the design that I wanted to use and cut off some extra. I used a piece of patty paper to make sure the clay was laying flat, and then rolled it first one direction and then the other, so that way I wouldn't get any sort of ghosting texture. And you can see how easy it is to release the clay from the texture. Having it stuck to the patty paper ensures that it doesn't get distorted when I remove it from the texture. I grabbed these Lisa Pavelka rounded triangle cutters and looked at possible placements for where I want them to make sure that I used the sizes correctly. And the scrap clay I had wasn't quite big enough, so I rolled it through my pasta machine until it was the right size. And I wasn't worried about thickness, but you can see what I started from and where I ended at. Then I'll place the clay on the backing, trying to avoid any bubbles between the two, and then I grab some plastic wrap, and using this when you cut will create nice rounded edges on your pieces. So I put the clay on a sheet of patty paper so that it wouldn't stick to my surface, and it's just much easier to handle it and then also remove it from the paper instead of the surface as well. Then I will lightly touch up the edges and bake them. This is set to bake at 265 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 minutes per 1/4 inch of thickness. I personally like to bake for a full hour, so I will put them on a baking sheet and tent them with aluminum foil. Now that they're baked, I want to add some liquid leaf on the raised areas of the texture. This is Classic Gold Liquid Leaf by Plaid, and make sure you stir it thoroughly before using. I find it's easier to apply with my finger, so I'll add a little over to the side and just dip my finger in and then blot it off a little bit, and then just glide over the raised areas until I'm satisfied. It makes the details of the texture stand out so much. And then of course I will do the same to the other 2 pieces and let them dry. Once they're dry, I want to clean up the edges. Since I had lightly cleaned them up before baking, there's very little to do, so I'm just going to use a fine grit nail file here and just lightly file away any rough or sharp edges, shaping the corners if I need to, but you can also use a buffing wheel on a rotary tool, but I find the nail file is usually good in many cases. The next step for these is to do a top coat with some UV resin. This will seal in the liquid leaf and also give the piece a beautiful shine, and of course make the colors pop. This is my 36-watt UV lamp. It has a tray that can slide out and come all the way out, which is really convenient when you don't want to move a piece. I'm using JDiction UV resin, and I also have some of it in this little black nail polish bottle as well, and it's great having a dedicated UV resin brush. First, I'm going to add just a little from the larger bottle to the center of the piece, and then spread the resin to the edges using the brush. I'm just pulling the resin to the edge, not over the edge. Then I'm going to flash cure it for about 10 seconds. And this sets the resin so I know it's not going to drip down the sides while I coat the other pieces. I'll do the same with the second one, and then finally, once the third one is ready, I will fully cure all three together for 3 minutes. The first thing I noticed with this clay just out of the box is that it's pretty oily, though I'm not sure that's the right term for it, but that's what it feels like. You can leach the clay by rolling it out and leaving it on a piece of printer paper for a while, even up to overnight. And it's not a requirement, of course, but leaching can also firm the clay up. It's a softer clay in my opinion, but some people love that and some people don't. I really like this clay. There's so many colors to choose from, and it's nice and soft, so it's easy to work with. The colors turned out great, and I'm very pleased overall. I haven't decided what I want to do with them yet, but you could use something like this hand drill to drill little holes to make some earrings and a necklace, and it would be very easy. Check out Hippie Crafter. There's a bunch of different products to try, and definitely check out the review I did on the epoxy resin. Links and ways to support this channel are down in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.